Hello and welcome to the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Dakbo Aruwajoye. And today on the program, a massive spill as militants attack Focado's export line again. An APC and PDP bicker over plans to postpone ONDO governorship election. And later on the program, ASU begins warning strike as the University of Ibadan suspends ongoing examinations. I'll be joined by Dipo Olayoku and Yomi Olomofe. A journalist hangout starts now. The people of Ogulaha Kingdom in Delta State are not happy. Their environment is degraded and they are literally swimming in crude oil. This situation has been the lot since last Wednesday. There are conflicting reports about the cause of the spill. Some allude to the bombing of the reopened 48-inch offshore Focado's crude oil export line operated by Shell Petroleum Development Company by suspected militants, while some community members claim the pipeline ruptured because it had not been changed in the last 30 years. But as the Nigerian government struggled with the cause of the spill, Niger Delta Avengers blew up 3 pipelines belonging to Ajib, ONDO and Shell Petroleum on Tuesday. It warned that the federal government was running out of time and doomsday is ahead. It boasted that the government needed them more than they needed the government. What do these events say about the ongoing talks between the government and the leaders of the Niger Delta area? Gentlemen, again, this is like we've been talking about this issue. We talk about this issue almost every week. Again, it has happened. But now the community are saying that, okay, the community members are saying, okay, maybe this pipeline ruptured because of maintenance culture. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's possible that it could be as a result of the age telling on the pipelines, because even before the advent of the Delta or militants bombing oil facilities, it has always been a regular thing in that region. And interestingly, the much talk about Ogoni cleanup was as a result of spills like this, not as a result of the consequences of the activities of Niger Delta militants. That is on one part. And if some people are raising the fear that perhaps it was due to the activities of the Niger Delta militants, it might not be far-fetched, because even while, especially immediately after the talks between the government and some leaders of the Niger Delta, where they presented their 16-point agenda, those guys came out and said, no, we told you that you're not talking to the right people. And that they made specific reference to the refurbished Focado stuff that, one, they're not happy that the government was working on refurbishing or repairing. Don't forget that they had done this earlier. And they want that government should not come around to repair. But because government was able to muster enough security, they were able to repair. And those guys said they are still going to hit. But beyond the problem is dealing on the economy. I think those guys should be more concerned about the environmental consequences of what they are doing. Now, after the UNEP came up with that report, that they were needing billions of dollars to clean up Ogoni, and which the government launched the project about June rather, which is going to take a long, about 10, 15, 20 years. I think these guys should understand the consequences of what they are doing, because it is going to tell on the environment. Apart from the air pollution, we are talking about the water that the guys people are drinking, they're going to be affected. We are talking about the farmland. Already, the expanse of the land they are using for farming has shrinked as a result of spills and explorations. So if we are now adding to that aspect, you can imagine the consequences it's going to have on the livelihood of the people you claim you are fighting for. So I think that is more important. There should be other means of registering their grievances instead of degrading the environment and adding more to the hardship of the people they claim to be fighting for. But I think it has now become very clear now that what these guys are fighting for, unless we want to deceive ourselves, is beyond the betterment of the environment of the Ogoni land or the Niger Delta. Because initially when the federal government said, okay, we're going to talk with you, they were the one who mentioned the Chief Edwin Clark. It was even meant that said they were against that man initially. All of a sudden, the same NDA, that's Niger Delta Avengers, that put Edwin Clark forward, are now the ones saying, no, we don't trust this guy again. It's like they never expected the government would go into dialogue with them. Maybe as the program progresses, we'll
go deeper. What do you think?
Yes,
yet again.
Yet again. Well, for me, I think government really also needs to step up its act in terms of the inequities. Yes, these folks obviously are adopting a wrong approach. If you're talking about your well-being and you're talking about your economic well-being, you should understand that you don't destroy because you want an improvement in your economic status. And if it's beyond economic considerations, you must also realize that you still must not destroy. You know, the implications for you to first impair normal daily existence.
So they are doing more harm than good.
I think the harm is much more than the objective good. But be this as it may, it is important that we also understand that the man will speak with the voice he has. And in a situation where these folks see themselves as very highly marginalized in the scheme of things, and perhaps seeing that dialogue seems slow, seeing that dialogue not usually don't bring spontaneous reaction from the parties involved and all of that, perhaps, but I will not want to give that as an excuse for them to destroy the patrimony of not only their own, immediate folks in that region, but the entire people of the country, and so many more people who, as a result of these relations in trading of crude, also benefit from crude exploration and all of that. So my take is that yes, they do have valid arguments. They do have valid reasons to want to, agitate. If you look at what happens in this region, you will agree with me that they actually do have basis. The approach, however, is the question here. You shouldn't destroy before you start building.
Okay. What do you think? Again, the dialogue or the meeting that transpired between the leaders of the Niger Delta and the federal government, can we say this meeting or the resolution or the agenda, everything in total, has failed?
No, I don't think it has failed. Because I read an interview granted by Chief Edwin Clark after the meeting, and then some other folks that attended the meeting. It's like, interestingly, many of those people who went for that meeting on the part of Niger Delta people had at one time or the other been in government, and they know how government operates. That's why they went with what they call 16-point agenda. There are some that will be attended to immediately, short term, mid-term, and then long-term. That's how they have broken the issues they have raised before the government. And they know that it will take time, because government is not something that will move from one room to the other. It's most likely government is going to set up a committee or appoint some of the ministers that has direct bearing with some of the issues that they have raised in the agenda, which is revolving around how do we improve the environment in that scenario. It is true, if you travel in that terrain, in that axis, especially from after Abia, that is if you are going through the Anambra or Imo, Abia Road, and then you want to go into Akwa Ibom, you will shudder, because more often than actually when it rains, there's no road to connect Abia and Akwa Ibom. And even if you want to go through the Warri, the Ugeli, that's the east-west road, it is also the same thing. We understand the price these guys have gone through. But you see, the hypocrisy in this argument is what is baffling some of us. And I would just hope that when this struggle started, the renewed struggle, especially in the past 8-9 months, and they said they want dialogue, some of us knew that what they wanted was no dialogue, but because of what really happened. Because the question you ask yourself.
So what was it that you think they needed?
What they needed, which no government will grant, and which they are systematically or stylishly telling us, is that some of the prosecutions of some of their people should stop.
Yeah.
How come? That it was when the issue of Tompolo came up that the court granted this thing that, okay, Tompolo should be arrested all of a sudden. Because if you accuse the government of oil block, this government has not approved any or given any block to anybody. If you are talking of bad roads, in the past 6-7 years, that road has been like that. Why did they keep quiet? So if you look at when this thing started, because let us give it to this government. One of the very first assignments the president undertook when he came on board was to appoint the new DG for amnesty program in the person of this retired brigadier general. And then there are other issues and stuff like that. So it is not that there is a project or there is a program of Niger Delta that the government stopped that would have warranted this renewal station. Yes, the roads are bad, amenities are bad, but in the past 7 years, you guys kept quiet, and you expected the government to fix it within 18 months. So that is the hypocrisy we are talking about. That is, I'm telling you.
But the hypocrisy, why is it that the leaders that met with the president and the team, why is it that they can't call these boys to order? We've met with the federal government. Just give peace a chance. Let us discuss and let's see the way forward, because almost immediately, like 2 days after or the second day, they blew another pipeline. So how will you?
If you ask me, Dapo, I must say that you see, these things is about trying to remain in the consciousness.
Can I interrupt you? Yes. Can I interrupt you? Because we need to go on a short break. Yeah. When I come back, we'll come back to you. Don't go anywhere, please. Welcome back. You're still watching Journalist Hangout. And I did interrupt Mr. Olamofe to go on that break.
Yes, like I was saying, you see, it's not a question of hypocrisy per se, really and truly. I think it's a combination of a number of considerations. I'm speaking with you, and I want your rapt attention. I want your immediate response to the things I'm saying to you. How do I get these two objectives achieved? I have come to see that it's not enough to say, okay, we have gone to a round table, we have dialogued, and then we begin to go back, fold our arms, and wait for, the slow processes for these things. The inequity that we're talking about here is massive. The unjust treatment to this region is massive, really and truly. But it's not
as if it's this government that started or the unjust.
But has anything particularly happened to this government that hasn't happened in the past? They're not blowing up pipelines for the first time.
Yes.
They didn't start yesterday. They didn't start with this government. Okay, yes, there might be some, reduced rate of these incidences before now. But you want to agree with me that if you are pressed and you need to have your issues taken with every seriousness, given topmost priority, and the voice you have is, like I have said, the voice they seem to have is the voice of destruction, bad as it is, unproductive, long and short term, bad as it is. That is their own voice.
And it's a bad voice.
It's a very bad voice. Not good for them, not good for the entire people of the country, not good for the people we are trading with, not good for our economy. But what do? So very many of them will believe that the only way to speak to government, to get government to listen to them, is to do damage, is to do havoc. And what havoc can they do? Go to the pipelines. And so, whereas I believe that the talks that this pipeline is, maybe it went bad as a result of old age, I do not want to lay too high a premium on that argument. I think it's just a face-saving. I think time has come, really and truly, for all parties to see the truth for what it is, that the treatment for that region is not what it should be. The dividends.
But are the people even helping themselves? Do you know how much money has been invested in that region? How much money some individuals have taken into their own purses? Do you know how much money?
Well, if you
amnesty, when they give millions of dollars or millions of nairas, it's just the individuals that put them in their pocket. the society, the environment remains degraded.
Look, Dapo, let me say to you that it's not about handouts, really and truly. It is not about handouts. For as long as it's seen from that prison that we're giving them money, for so long, shall there not be anything to show for it? It's about a holistic approach to these issues. Development.
Don't just
physical, tangible, massive development of that region. Okay. Taking it from the backwater communities that they are to a high street community, bringing first world facilities and amenities to those communities.
And they feel involved.
And then carrying them along as you bring these things in. For crying out loud, I believe that development is far in that region.
I have a caller from is it Kwara? Peter. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, sir.
How are you, sir?
Fine, sir.
Your contribution.
On the issue of discourse, it is very imperative to take development directly to the people. Negotiating and renegotiating is not the solution to the degradation in the Niger Delta. And if you look at it very well, calls for blame from this present government is not good for the growth of this nation. The best thing to do is to nip every of the problem by the bull, by the horn, instead of going for a front and back, blaming and saying it's because of the oil spill, maybe because of the bombing. Even before the bombing, there had been oil spill. Even in the Ogoni land that it was well celebrated, they are going to do the cleanup. Nothing has been done. So it should be very wise for this government to come out now and deal with this issue. Take development directly to these people as the man in the brown suit. Yes, sir. Let Nigeria, let this government be sincere in all the ceremonies.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Peter.
Coming on with that, okay, let it go straight to the people and develop this land.
All right.
The locals, we appreciate it rather than negotiate with chiefs.
Okay, Peter. Thanks a lot. What do you think? Because dialogue, you said, is the only key to this problem. But the militants, when they released a press statement, was it yesterday or this morning, they said the military occupation in that region is part of the reason why they are doing all this. The military should leave first before they die.
I don't know a country where such a thing will happen, where you have cases of vandalism, kidnapping, all forms of crime, and you want the government to withdraw security agencies from there. It's laughable. Because in a peaceful environment, I don't think government would deploy police and civil soldiers to, but a situation where you have people being kidnapped every day, where pipelines are being vandalized, you want the government to now remove security agencies from there. It's just like looking for excuse to create problem. Unless you want to deceive ourselves, we want to tell ourselves the truth.
Can I quickly take Joseph?
Okay.
Joseph is calling from Abia. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
How are you, Joseph?
Joseph, from Abia State.
Yeah, Joseph, you're welcome. You're live. Your contribution.
Yeah. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Yeah. Please, I want to commend the present government for trying to carry the people of Niger Delta along.
You're listening to yourself, Joseph. Just continue talking.
Yes. I want to say categorically that all the previous government we have had never done anything in terms of development in that area. And the Niger Delta that are springing up here and there, they are not doing it based on development. They are doing it on their own selfish reasons. Doing it in terms of getting ransom from the federal government. That's what they are aiming for. The federal government is not ready for that ransom. That is the problem they are having. Okay. Federal government is not ready for ransom. Federal government is ready to develop that area. And they don't want to queue up on that line. And people are not seeing it that way. It is a political motivated something. People are there using those boys in order to destroy this government not to go forward. Then we are saying no. Yes.
All right, Joseph, you've made your point already.
As I was saying, do you think there's a better way of developing a place than involving the people themselves? Because it is believed that the people themselves, when you empower them, you take development to them. How do I mean? This thing started from Compadec. Some people ate the money, and there's a popular professor. When government wanted to go after him, then People of his community rallied around him and said, it's our money. Let him eat it. Later, they came up with Niger Delta Ministry. Later, they came up with what we call 13% derivation and stuff, and they came up with NDDC. This is
because a whole lot of money have been pumped into that place.
I don't think anybody from the West, I mean Southwest, or the North has ever headed NDDC. Rather, what do we have? You have a situation where in December, somebody will say he's organizing a Christmas party and spend 850 million naira.
Yes.
Somebody will tell you that he wants to stop rain from disrupting an event, and the project, they spent 885 million naira from somebody from Niger Delta, and you are blaming government for that. Because if the government has sat down in Abuja saying, okay, go and develop that community from Ministry of Works or Ministry of Housing, would have said, oh, government is very far. But government said, okay, NDDC, your people go and develop your people. Government said, okay, amnesty program. Government said Ministry of Niger Delta, that has never been headed by somebody from outside. And you are thinking government should take development to them. I don't know how government is going to take development to them beyond using members of the community. I think the problem is the members of that community will have to take a second look at how they are making their demand. How come that each time that government gives you people money to develop and somebody eats the money, when government wants to go after that person, you accuse the government of persecuting because he's from Niger Delta. That's why they're going after him. And they are not angry against the person that he took the money that is meant for the community. They are never. And you say, oh, God, it's because it's Niger Delta. Now that's why they are going after him. That is why I said it is the issue of hypocrisy. Because if the government is saying this is what we want to do, and some people are blocking it from within your community, I even expected that they are the ones that should have even gone after those people that what government wanted to bring to us, you ate it. Because maybe that's the way we were brought up in this year.
Kazim from Kaduna. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
We're waiting for your contribution, please.
Yes, I just want to add that, the other gentleman in jacket.
Okay, Yami Olomofe.
Yes. He has been blaming government that government is not doing much to develop that area. Which I think is not true. It's not the true position. Government have been trying to support, instead of them to allow government to do its best, they refuse to. They are always attacking, breaking pipeline. They are adding more damage to the environment. And one thing I want them to understand is that blowing the pipelines does not serve any good to them. Because they live in that area. The vegetation, the ecosystem, everything is destroyed. The money that could have been used in developing that area is certainly going to be what will be used in cleaning the mess they created. So why not they come down, impress on government if it is for the development. Yes, obviously they need to be developed because bulk of the country's wealth is coming from there.
Okay, all right,
but
thank
again,
you.
their leaders there are not doing them good because.
Okay, thank you, Kazim. I know you want to you want to respond to that. Okay, because we need to go on.
Yeah, exactly.
All
what
right.
I just like to say is quickly that I haven't said government isn't doing, a number of things in that region. What I have said is that these things are in pockets. They are not cohesive, and there are no benchmarks.
Okay, all right then. So we'll leave it there because we need to go on a short break. And when Journalists Hangout returns, APC and PDP disagree over plans to postpone our ONDO governorship election. Stay with us, please. With just 10 days to the governorship election in Ondo State, the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party have openly expressed their dissatisfaction over an alleged plot to shift the poll. Last Monday, the campaign organization of the All Progressives Congress alleged that Governor Olusegun Mimiko was working hard to ensure that the election is postponed. But the PDP has denied this allegation. It said such an allegation shows that the APC is jittery and already anticipating defeat, and knowing that if its candidate, Eyitayo Jegede, is cleared to contest, he would win the election. Is it really likely that the election might be postponed? Maybe that's what happened in Edo. Maybe there's a repeat going on now. What do you think?
Well, I don't think there's any issue. No. APC alleged that PDP wants the election postponed. PDP said no. We are not plotting for the thing to postpone. So there's no issue. The real point is that there's no reason for that, for the postponement of the election. And we should not form the habit of postponing the elections.
INEC says it's ready.
And that's one of the fears some of us raised, even in spite of all the shenanigans of the past NSA, that we should not indulge in postponing elections.
You mean the last general election?
And it's like that one has formed the basis, like a platform for other elections to be postponed, either on the issue of security or logistics or whatever. More often than not, usually on insecurity. Because if it is going to be on the issue of insecurity, we just had a dual election. Why not transfer the template of that security that they provided eventually after the 2 or 3 weeks postponement and move it immediately, or something like that, plan it for ONDO rather, so that there will not be any reason for that matter. Because the reason why elections, according to the Electoral Act, why elections were scheduled to come earlier, and that was why the National Assembly, in their members in their wisdom, said, okay, let us shorten the last span of election petitions. That if possible, if election matters can be trashed out
immediately
before the person assumes office, so that the person will assume office with his mind focused on governance. Some of us still remembered in 1979 when there was this crisis between MPN and UPN. The matter was disposed of even at the Supreme Court before October 1, when the President Gachagari was expected to take over. But it's like those people who operated in Nigeria then were saints, maybe angels that has supernatural powers. Only God knows what has happened to Nigerians now. That within 2 months we cannot organize election. What we are saying is, if the spirit that informed the National Assembly members saying, okay, let us shorten the last span of election petition tribunal, so that matters could be disposed of before the guy assumes office. And there's an aspect of the Electoral Act that even gives them that latitude, that you can conduct election 90 days to the handing over date. So we are thinking that whatever might arise out of the election could be tried out within 3 months. But this idea of pushing the election very close to the handing over date, I think should be avoided. If APC has alleged that PDP wants election postponed, and PDP has come to say, no, we don't want it postponed, there's no issue. INEC has no reason whatsoever to postpone this election that everybody is looking out for. November 26th is still available. If
INEC doesn't have any reason, do you think there's a reason to postpone this election?
I haven't seen one. I haven't seen a clear, incontrovertible reason to want to even consider postponement. I think what is happening here basically is tendencies to whip up artificial hysteria every time, all the time, when elections are around the corners. Somebody is alleging that people are, the both of them have cancelled themselves out. You know, INEC has said it's ready to go ahead and conduct this. So I think the media also should, we owe it a duty to the readers to try to, in our agenda setting initiatives, not to put issues that will, you know, that controversies will feed on onto the front burner. If INEC has not come out to tell us that this is the reason why it may be considering a postponement, if the both political parties who are the strongest contenders, you know, because basically we are talking about APC and PDP. It's not like they are the only parties in that race. It's just that we seem to have concluded that the race is between these two political organizations.
And again, there's another dimension to it. And who has the power to control the office? Talking about INEC.
Yes.
That's another thing entirely. You know, in Edo instance, you have the federal APC, state APC. But in this instance, you have the state, as at now, PDP, and the federal APC. So the idea is, because I see why they are exchanging this banter is, okay, PDP, you've got the power to control the state independent electoral commission, while the APC might have the power to control INEC itself. I think that's where it's coming from, because they've not even talked about group, this AD, saying they want to postpone the election. If you get my argument.
Yes, I do get your argument, but I think my take, like I've said earlier on here, is that we leave issues to chase, we leave the substance to chase shadows. Now, rather than for these two main contenders to be talking about how much the quality of lives of electorates is going to be, you know, after the elections, they are whipping up sentiments that are baseless. They're trying to create confusion where, you know, there shouldn't be confusion. So for me, I think the two parties, really and truly, and the moderator, the State Independent Electoral Commission, should have their eyes focused on issues, developments, ideas. Because really and truly, if you ask me, yes, these two leading parties will argue that they do have ideologies. They do have manifestos, they do have developmental goals and plans. But you go back to the street and talk to the average voter out there. He doesn't even know what his fate is going to be like. He doesn't know what to look forward to. He doesn't know where exactly the dispensation that is outgoing will leave him, and where whichever one comes in will take him up from.
Maybe because there's no difference between
that's what I'm saying. There's an opaqueness in the political manifestos of all the, and this is why, basically, rather than drive their objectives, rather than drive their manifestos, they just whip up confusion, they whip up sentiments, they want to create artificial history.
Yeah, and that's where the problem is, because they should remember that Ondo State has this history of violence, electoral violence, and we don't want a deja vu coming up again, because these gentlemen in different parties should know that if anything happens, people might lose their lives. I think they should have that at the back of their minds now already. And even the security agents, I mean the agency, the police and everybody should call them to order.
Dapo, if you think an average Nigerian thinks about the consequences of their actions, an average Nigerian politician thinks of the consequences of his action or her action, I think you must be living in other planets. Now let us come to the brass tacks, the real politics. There's no smoke without fire. We only said that at the surface level. The question you ask yourself is, will it be in the interest of Mimiko and his faction of PDP for the election to go ahead on November 26? The answer is no. This is because Mimiko believes that if he's able to field Jegede, that PDP will win the
chances
election.
are brighter.
And there's no likelihood that the issue will be disposed of at the appeal court, because whoever loses will go to Supreme Court. There is no assurance that this matter will be disposed of at the Supreme Court before November 26. So it will be in the interest of Mimiko. We are just looking at the conspiracy theory of an average Nigerian politician. It will be in the interest of Mimiko to get the election postponed. Because if you look at that statement you released, there's a caveat there that APC is jittery because they know that if Jegede is fielded, but the question is, will Jegede be eligible before November 26? The answer is no. So if APC is coming up with that fear, it is not because they have seen the sign. It's like some strategists working at, these people might come up with this agenda. Let us nip it in the bud. You know, everybody is just trying to make sure that you hit the opponent where it matters most. So if they are raising that fear, it is not far-fetched. Because the permutation, we are talking about permutation now in politics. Mimiko we have come to realize that today is 16. The matter concerning Jegede has not been disposed of at appeal court. Whoever loses will go to Supreme Court. And the matter will not be disposed of before 26. What we are only telling INEC and the security agencies is that there is no any reason for this election to be postponed. Because by now we should begin to see activities. Because what does it take a governor to precipitate crisis within 2-3 days? That will run into on security ground. Let us postpone the election. So I think we should halt the habit of postponing elections. When we set a date for an election, I think there's the need for us. It's like when you say you set a date for Christmas celebration, December 25, and you say because there's going to be violence, you are going to shift the date. Let us make our elections date sacrosanct. Some of us are celebrating America. Americans know that this month in November, they must hold their presidential election. So whoever is working either as a candidate or as a voter, or as the electoral umpire, will be working towards that direction, not somebody waiting for, let us do it, they will postpone it.
Okay.
INEC and security agencies, and the government especially, at the national level, if they postpone it this time around, they must have checked their responsibility.
Okay, we need to go on yet another break, and when we come back, we'll discuss more. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. I still have the two gentlemen in the studio. Well, you see, I was thinking about something when we want to break. Like, it's been APC, PDP, big cream, but they're forgetting. Okay, it's just around the corner, gathering momentum also.
Watching
and is permutating. It might overtake these people, well, don't you think? Because it might be the Trump.
Maybe the
not thinking of.
Maybe the Agbala Jobi Sarumi scenario might just be lurking around the corner to repeat itself. You know, because for all I know, as I've said, for as long as our politics is centered around personal, private interests and not the interest of the majority of the people. For so long shall we have all of these elementary and quite irritating issues coming up when more serious things should be on the agenda. You know, so for me, let them continue. Mimiko, well, people have said he has reasons to want the goalposts shifted. But I think if he actually really truly has the interest of his people at heart, he will know that all of these things playing out, it is the voters, the common man on the street that is losing out. And it is the value of our democratic practices, the worth and the weight of our democratic practices that continues to get withered away. You know, let them keep at it. Somebody may just come from the blues, out of bookmakers reckoning, beating bookmakers and all of it to it, and then clinch that. But though, I must say quickly that whomsoever comes forth, we are not seeing serious political agenda. We are not seeing any serious.
We don't even agenda. Know what they stand
for. What we are saying is it must not go APC. It must remain with PDP, and the other smaller ones too. I say, okay, for the first time, we the minions too can just spring from nowhere and then grab this thing. You know, and all of this, unfortunately, at the expense of the masses, at the expense of the masses, of development.
But now you hear the PDP say, "Don't let APC take it." APC says, "Don't let PDP take it," forgetting that they have another powerful political candidate there also talking about. Okay, can he pull that Trump factor?
It depends on the structure that he has in place. Let us go back to the 2012 election, when you have PDP, no, LP rather,
Labour Party.
PDP and ACN. Okay, was the candidate of PDP.
Yes.
While Akedolu was the candidate of ACN. And in that order, eventually,
Mimiko
won.
Labour.
LP first, PDP second,
ACN.
But you have to look at the circumstances that Ghana vote for. Okay, he has a stronghold, while he used the stronghold of other people to come second. But in politics, anything can happen. Because whether you like it or not, as far as this election is concerned, Mimiko still holds the ace. How do I mean? Going by the most recent election in ONDO State, which was the last presidential election, APC won the presidency with 2 senatorial seats and higher number of House of Reps as against Mimiko's party. We had joined PDP then. But interestingly, 2 weeks later, when we held the House of Assembly election, Mimiko cleared the votes. Exactly what happened in Edo. That means the people of Ondo State, at the level of the state, are satisfied with him. That's why they voted for the presidency, APC, and at the House of Assembly. That means that if they had held the local government leadership election on the same day, he would have won. So those are the permutations that are there. But interestingly, so it is possible for Mimiko, we are looking at permutations now. If eventually his candidate fails to get the nod at the court, it's possible that he will now pitch his tent with one of the lesser candidates. Because don't forget, in this election, Agunloye is in this election,
Yes.
SDC from PDP,
SDP.
Labour Party. Olushola Oke is in this race from APC,
They have
PDP.
one Abga.
And there is there is Dr. Bada of NNPP, also from PDP. So PDP has about 7 candidates in this election. It is possible that Mimiko would decide to go to one of the less known candidates, and eventually only God knows what.
All right, wonderful. Moving on, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has begun a 1-week warning strike in all public universities. The union says the strike was due to chronic underfunding of the sector through low budgetary allocation, which went from 11% in 2015 to 8% in 2016. Sadly, this industrial action is beginning to have painful effect on students. Today, at the University of Ibadan and University of Lagos, some students couldn't write their exams. But of all the demands of ASU, one is really surprising. The association wants universities to be exempted from the single treasury account policy of President Muhammadu Buhari. Some critics are asking why. And I'll ask you gentlemen also why. You know, this morning I was listening to radio and someone said, ASU, I think ASU is on strike. But it's been a long time, Sha.
Yes, I listened to that.
You read it also. I think it was Radio Continental.
Yes,
it's been a long time, Sha. And I was like, really? It's been a long time though. But it's still sad. Because you know what? Obafemi Awolowo University, I did a course of 4 years. I practically spent 6 years studying a 4-year course.
Lucky.
Because then they went on strike for almost 6 to 7 months. It's terrible. I was lucky.
Some people spend 8 years for a 4-year program.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
if a particular. See, the students are suffering this again.
Therefore, unfortunately, the issue of strike, I'm always antagonistic when it comes to it. Don't blame me. Because when I finished university and I wanted to start work, I came into broadcasting. I was working with OGBC then. Even if every other person goes on strike, it would never cross your mind. I remember in 1993, the June 12, 1993, the fallout, there was this crisis that even NUJ had to join at a point. The management of OGBC had to enter into an agreement with NUJ that they should release some of us to continue working. So even while that strike was on, we were still working. So that has always been my disposition to strike. It has never been in my agenda. Whoever wants to use it as a tool of getting government to do anything will never be my friend. Especially not about this time. You just mentioned your own 6 years. Nigeria has become like a laughing stock in the international community. That if you go in for a 4-year program, they will say you only know when you are entering university.
You don't know when you
are coming out. And since our lecturers are happy, nobody is happy about what is happening in the universities. You go to the university, you attended about 10. Let me just say this before I close so that my friend can say something. A friend he called into a program, a Ibadan program, the Beyond Radio program in Ibadan, and said that he didn't know that things had got so low in our universities that when her daughter was going back to school, the girl listed everything he needed to buy for her, and that he thought he had bought everything. But lo and behold, the girl said, Daddy, you never buy Doro now. You know what they call Doro?
What's Doro?
That thing they used to fetch water from the well.
Wow, there's
she
no
said,
water.
Doro, what do you mean? That in their university, that they used things to well, it has gotten to that level.
That's bad.
We appreciate that fact. But I don't think this is the appropriate time for them to
But you know what? Even if that's why the lecturers are going on strike, that's good. You see, the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement is there. Registration of NOPENCO, a payment of the EAA, that's the end academic allowance. But the one that caught my interest, which I read, is the exemption of universities from the TSA. How is that possible?
Well, let me say that I am also not going to give kudos for this strike. I do not think it is right at this time. I do not think it is the most viable way to go at this time. Having said that, perhaps what is at the back of it, because I have not had the privilege to engage with leadership of ASU, perhaps what's at the back of their mind possibly is this issue of autonomy, allowing the university to be self-sufficient, allowing the university to run at its own pace. But like I said, they need to advance reasons.
But before the introduction of TSA, have they been able to fund to even run by themselves?
Well, because there's always been, you know, strictures. There's always been regulatory strictures that ordinarily, you know, they will say are responsible for, you know, the pace at which they were running. Saying, having said all of that, we must understand the leadership of ASU needs to take into consideration the plight of the students. If you call strike at every turn, any little issue on the table, you call strike action. It defeats the entire purpose of industrial strike actions. Because normally, it should be the last possible result. And it must come only after every other venue has been exhausted. But here we are. You're talking about 2013 agreements that have not been implemented.
209.
There's the 209 agreement. There's also the MOU of 2013 and all that. You're talking about these two. Have you told us how much you have engaged with this present
administration?
You need to also let us know what the responses of this present government has been before you now take it upon yourself to, you know, call out a strike action.
Okay, I have Stanley from Oshun. Good evening, Stanley.
Yes, good evening over at the journalist Hangout.
Yeah, good evening. You're welcome, Stanley. Your contribution, please.
Thank you. First, let me contribute on the initial topic about the militants. You see, Nigeria, as we keep talking about marginalization, everybody talks about how they so marginalize them, how they so marginalize them, how they so left them away from the national cake, and unfortunately, people resort to using harsh means to make the government to bend to his knees. Now, marginalization happens in every part of this country. In my state where I'm from, everybody in some particular field, because they are not really from a particular sector that is so into the government, they feel marginalized. Some feel that even in the family, there's still marginalization. Now, because your brother, you feel your dad is marginalizing you, they are not giving you biscuits, you now begin to break the house plates and you begin to tear your daddy's tires just because you want to make your voices known. For heaven's sake, Nigeria is in a recession. So why would these people resort to bombing our pipelines just to make it? And obviously, just like the other man said, it's obvious that they're not really fighting for the people. When you're fighting for the people, then you now keep to bombing the pipelines, then spill the oil, rubbish in the environment. The people are they now away from Nigeria that are not feeling the recession?
Okay,
Stanley. All of us are feeling it at this point. Now, secondly, talking about this ASU.
Stanley, oh, sorry about that, because we don't even have enough time again. Gentlemen, your conclusions. I'm talking about the TSA.
Yes, you asked your major question that even before the introduction of TSA, these guys were generating massive, serious one. You go to University of Lagos there, even park your car at any of the departments, you pay a lot of money. Yes. And interestingly, ASU has never raised the issue of corruption against the business. And they are now encouraging the government. I don't know, it's not unfortunate. I think there are other things
the students also should be asking questions from these lecturers. Why do you have to, do that to my future?
It does appear that as with every serious considerations and issues in our land, people only think of themselves. ASU at this point, I believe, is only thinking about itself and is not thinking about all the other variables on the table. How does this pan out for the students? How does this pan out for the economy? How does this pan out for even the lecturers, the lecturers themselves? And how much of the avenues of dialogue have been explored before this industrial action? I think strike is being abused in our land.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure being here.
General, thank you so much. And for those that have called, thank you also. And that's all on Journalist Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for another interesting episode of the program. I watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I am Dakbo Aruwajoy. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.